we're going to get started just for the sake of time. It's 1:10 now. But you all are here because you've expressed an interest in learning more about the U.S. Service Academies, and of which there are 5, right? The U.S. Naval Academy, U.S. Military Academy at West Point, which is Army, U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, U.S. Air Force Academy, and the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. And we are fortunate enough to have 3 cadets from those schools here with us today. And through a coordination with Senator Whitehouse, one of the Rhode Island senators, we're able to have some of these folks here with us. Andrew Cesala and Holly are from Senator Whitehouse's office and have been instrumental in setting this up. And of course, I had to pull in a former Pontiganset alum here, Sophie Terrell, who is one of my students who's attending the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. These academies are about as elite as they come. All right, this is not just a typical college. They are looking for leaders who want to become better leaders. That's academic, that's physical, that's mental, it's professional, everything. However, that journey, in speaking to and working with students that have been at these academies, that journey begins in 8th grade to prepare for 9th grade, to prepare for 10th grade, and so on and so forth. So that's what you would be sort of looking to get into now as a student. Mr. Foreign can attest to this as well, with his son having been a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy as well. So, any case, so I want to, first of all, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here. They're all on home on holiday break, and so they're willing and gracious enough to spend a little bit of time with us this morning or this afternoon. So I'm going to sort of hand it over to you to introduce you all, and then maybe give us an idea of where you're from. They're all from Rhode Island, but what academy you go to. And a couple of the talking points that I would like for you to maybe focus on is, what was your personal high school journey that got you to the academy that you're at? What did you do in high school to prepare? So what courses did you take? What activities did you do? What routines or goals did you set for yourself as freshmen, as sophomores, and so on? What was your GPA and class rank and SAT scores, if you don't mind sharing that? What was the process of selection like? Because you just don't apply to this school and get in. You actually have to go and meet senators and congressmen. You have to present yourself in a way that you will secure an endorsement from them, and that takes time. So talk a little bit about that, and then wherever you're at right now, what is your plan after you graduate? All right, so for my students here, if you could maybe hit those talking points, and that's it. So again, thank you all for being here today. I appreciate it. All right.
I'll start off. My name's Sophie. I'm from here, Foster. Right now I go to Kings Point, United States Merchant Marine Academy. Let's see, I didn't hear about the service academies until my freshman year. A West Point cadet actually came to our school, and I learned about it, and I realized this is what I want to do. I've always wanted to go into the military. I was in the biomedical pathway. I took a lot of AP courses. My SAT score, I don't even remember. I think it was like 1,100 in there. I got involved really early. I talked to Senator Whitehouse probably in like 10th grade, I think it was. I had all my applications done with in 11th grade. So if you're like interested in this, like start contacting people right now, because it's just better and it'll help you in the end. Because I had all my friends like rushing to get like their resumes done and all this stuff done last minute, but if you do it in advance, then you don't have to worry about it. So right now at the Merchant Marine Academy, I'm in the Navy Reserves, but I'm gonna see how I like it out at sea, because we get to go out at sea like twice for 4 months and 8 months. So if I like it out at sea, I'm gonna become an officer, active duty Navy. If I don't like it as much out at sea, like if I don't see a career for that, then I'm probably gonna go into the Marines. I'm in like a Marine op program right now. So yeah, and I'm just a plebe, it's just my first year, so yeah.
I'm Logan Crooks, I'm from Cumberland. So in high school, I was captain of the swim team. I took harder classes. I'm an Eagle Scout, but you don't have to be ready to get into the Service Academy right now. You don't have one shot at it, so you can go to college for a year, you can work, you can enlist out of here, and then go to the academies after. It took me 4 times to get in, so if you guys feel like that's boot camp, please feel free to ask any questions about that. The academies and the center's offices definitely appreciate resilience and persistence when it comes to these things. So don't ever feel discouraged, and definitely just try to keep pressing forward if this is what you want.
So I'm Ian Coyne, I'm from Barrington. I'm a senior at the Naval Academy right now. So it's kind of hard for me to remember back to high school because out of high school I did a prep school year at the Naval Academy Prep School, which is like another option that if the academy wants you to have more work with grades and stuff like that, they could send you to one of the prep schools. So thinking back to high school, that was almost 6 years ago for me now. I know my SAT score is in the 1200s, and I think I had a 3.4 graduating high school. But yeah, just like you said, just get started with all this early. Andrew and Holly are very, very helpful through the whole process. They're here to help you through it. And then after graduation, I'm going to be going down to Florida for flight school. I'm going to be a Navy pilot.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
Ian
you.
got his first choice, which isn't necessarily easy by any means in the academy.
I'm very excited. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions right off the bat about anything that we said, or in general questions?
Does anyone know basically how the application process works for these academies? Okay, so we'll probably start there. So it's kind of a bear. You should probably start probably your junior year, but obviously prepare ahead of time. You're going to apply to both the academies and to the senator's office. So it's 2 separate applications because by federal law, you need a nomination from a member of Congress to be appointed to the academy. So you apply through the senator's office, the congressman's office, and interview for that as well. And then you'll also apply to the academy of your choice, like a normal college application, but it includes additional things like a medical test as well as a physical fitness test. The physical fitness test varies for each academy, but the medical test is the same. You just go do that in Warwick. You're literally in the Warwick Mall parking lot. And yeah, so basically your file, so Navy puts a little bit less emphasis on leadership and more emphasis on physical, and I believe.
Yeah.
And then West Point puts kind of 30% leadership, 10% physical, and then 60% academics. So that's basically what we're going to be assessed on, those 3 pillars of physical, leadership, and academics. So things like Eagle Scout, things like class president, those will max out your leadership points. Doing well on the fitness test will max out your physical fitness points. And then obviously having that academic portion is split 30% standardized test scores, which does have a minimum, and then 30% performance in class and rigor of curriculum.
So I can speak for the Naval Academy at least. They really like to see STEM courses in your high school academics. So at the Naval Academy, you'll graduate with a bachelor's of science, just because you take so many rigorous STEM courses there. I've taken a lot of engineering courses and stuff, not by my own choice, but by the academy's choice. Personally, I'm a political science major there, but even doing that, I still have to take all these thermodynamics types courses for that STEM background. So they like to see AP science classes, stuff like that, upper level math courses, things like that.
I can speak to that as well. Math's also not my strong point. That's why I had to apply a few times. And I'm a prepster as well, so I went to the West Point Prep School. And then you do have to take those STEM courses throughout the academy, which is a bear. But on the flip side, if you are a STEM person, you will, at West Point at least, you'll also be thrust into a lot more social science courses than you would anywhere else as well, because it's a very broad curriculum. So, like, for example, our mandatory, like, graduation requirements when it comes to academic is you have to take 2 semesters of a language at least, 2 English classes, international affairs class, on international affairs major, psychology, and then you have to take 3 engineering course sequence, calculus, chemistry, physics, biology. You have to take a physical geography class. You have to take an American history class, a regional history class. So it's a very broad curriculum that isn't focused on one thing. But again, if you are left side of the brain or right side of the brain, you're going to be challenged because you're going to take more of that side than you would want to.
Yeah, along with Kings Point, we're also mostly math and science based, so it's like we don't take as many, like we don't have as many majors as West Point does or Naval Academy does. It's mostly like engineering, or if you want to go DEC, I'm going DEC, logistics and security, but there's no like English, there's no political science. We don't have any of those majors. So it's really, really math and science based. So I recommend if you're not like interested in math or science, I would stay away from Kings Point because that's what it is.
So does that make sense to everyone? Do you guys kind of have a better idea of what the academies are? Basically, the point of the academies is to crank out our officers and our leaders in our military. You were going to go there for 4 years and get an amazing education. You were going to be challenged and it's going to be tough. When you graduate after your 4 years, you then, because you're going to go to school for the whole, right? The trade-off is you then are obligated to a minimum of 5 years of service depending on which academy you go to. And then depending on how you do in school and how that works out, and it's all about like rankings and, you know, you find a field from there and you move on into your career from there. As they mentioned, you have to reach out to a member of Congress to get a nomination in order to attend. So you are doing an application. We always encourage you to have as many options as possible. So we are going to encourage you to look at more than one service academy if that's what you are interested in. So you could be doing up to 4 applications for the military academies alone. You also are then going to do an application with the members of Congress. So Senator Reid and Senator Whitehouse, and then either Congress, is it Cicilline up here?
Langevin.
Congressman Langevin. You may also look at the Vice President also does nominations, so take an opportunity to look into that. His guidelines are a little bit different on how those are awarded, but it's absolutely worth looking at. Again, kind of the background while all this is going on is we're always going to tell you to keep your options open. You have prepsters, you have people here who have had to apply multiple times. People who've done, Logan's also done ROTC. Logan, you would have had 1 year of ROTC left?
2. Yeah.
2?
Yeah.
So he made it halfway through ROTC, but still wanted West Point so bad, kept applying, was given an opportunity, basically started college all over again.
Senior year of high school, basically, because I went to prep right after. So.
Yeah, so, and then Ian, same thing, Ian did a year at prep school. Sophie, you went right in, so you got it on top of these guys. Usually the girls do really well. It is a lot of work, but I think like the biggest thing to take away from them is they will all tell you to start early. You know, the academies are looking for a well-rounded student. Your academics are super important. You know, physicality, you should be doing a sport, something to keep yourself active. But these are also kind of leadership schools, so, you know, being in clubs at school, volunteering outside of school, that, you know, having that well-rounded look is what they're looking for. Does that all make sense?
And a couple other things, just to kind of fill in some gaps here. One of the other benefits is you have 0 student loans when you graduate. So regardless of, you know, what kind of financial background your family's coming from or whatever, you're all set. You don't pay back a dime because you're paying back your time, basically. Beyond that, I believe they get paid. If I remember correctly, that all of you were getting a paycheck to go to college, as opposed to the civilian college where you go to college and get a side job and all that kind of stuff. They're getting direct deposits from the U.S. government. And then, you know, there's just a lot of really cool opportunities and a lot of really great experiences that you're going to have. I mean, actually, what I would ask of you right now, each of you, is just tell them probably the coolest thing you've seen so far that Ian's probably got a little bit more to choose from because he has more time. But why don't we start with Sophie? What was the coolest thing you've done so far?
Yes. Honestly, like the coolest thing I've done so far was probably like during Indoc, which is our like boot camp and stuff, and we got to like jump off of our training vessel, the King's Pointer, and we got to ride around and see how the ship operates for a day. We went to the Statue of Liberty, so that was just really cool for me because Kings Point's very like maritime related. So if you're interested in that, I highly encourage that. But that was definitely the coolest thing for me.
West Point's pretty hard because there's a lot of cool things. It's kind of intermixed with a lot of, but it is intermixed with like a lot of suck. Like to get to those cool things, like you got to go through a lot. But I went to air assault school where you learn how to repel out helicopters. You do that in your summer break. You can go to airborne school. You can go do a lot of cool schools. You can go abroad. I've had some amazing briefs, like people that have come to West Point to speak to us. Like we have astronauts come to speak to us who graduated from West Point, because a lot of them do. I'm currently the medic for the parachute team, so all of our football games, the parachute team jumps in, they bring the game ball and the flag. So every day I'm just sitting out there on the plane where everyone's drilling, watching people fall from the sky, in case anything happens. I don't know, like I met the very first firefighter that was on scene at 9/11. And the first battalion chief as well. They came to speak to us, which is amazing because those are like my heroes because I was a firefighter beforehand. And then General Romeo Dallaire came as well recently. He was the UN commander during the Rwandan genocide. So he saved 30,000 lives. He also came to speak to us. So these are the types of people that we're trying to develop you as you go.
Yeah, so I have, I've had incredible experiences at the Naval Academy that not going there, I wouldn't have even like dreamt about having. So after your first year, like after your freshman year, you'll go on a ship and go on a cruise. Not like a
Not a booze cruise.
Yeah, not a booze cruise, a working cruise. We call it a cruise. So for that, I got to go to Rotc, Spain, and I was there in Spain for about a week. Went underway through the Mediterranean, jumped off the ship in the middle of the Mediterranean for a swim call, and then I got to spend about 2 weeks in a little beach town in Italy called Gaeta, Italy, which is about like an hour south from Rome. So I got to work on the ship there, travel around Italy on basically all expense paid, trip there for training, which was awesome. And, I don't know when else I would have gone to Italy or Spain. This past summer I was with a helicopter squadron down in Virginia. I got to fly a multi-million-dollar helicopter. So that was also awesome. That sold me on aviation. But just like he said, there are so many cool experiences that we get, cool people coming to talk to us, to develop us. We're also just, 45 minutes north of Washington, D.C., so all upper level people in the government come to speak to us. Let's see, what else? I don't know if you saw the Army-Navy game on TV. we got that win this year. But that's something you'll go to every single year. It's on a lot of people's sports bucket lists, and you just get to go, for free and have a blast. I was in New York this year, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, just cool experiences. I guess we can touch on what you can do afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
So from the Naval Academy after you graduate, like how I was saying, you get to put in your dream list for what you want to do. Out of the Naval Academy, you can be a Navy pilot, you can be a Marine pilot, you can go on submarines, or you can go on a surface ship, along with Navy SEALs and Navy Special Warfare. So obviously my first choice was Navy pilot, and that's what I got. It's about 85% get their first choice, maybe a little lower. But yeah, a lot of cool opportunities.
So for West Point, we work for the Army, and we have 17 branches in the Army. So you can do field artillery, you can shoot big guns, you can do air defense artillery. If it flies, it dies, you shoot missiles at things. You can fly helicopters, such as the big school bus, that's the Chinook that you see. You can fly Blackhawks, you can fly medevac Blackhawks, you can fly Apache attack helicopters. You can drive tanks and armor, and the armor branch. We have chemical, signal, which is like radios, cyber, which is huge now, military intelligence, medical service, which is pretty small percentage. You can go to med school from West Point. And then, of course, if you really want the military, go infantry, best branch there is. So yeah, you have a lot of opportunities from there. And you also have opportunities for different scholarships, which I know are available to all the academies as well. Yeah.
So I think Kings Point is pretty cool when it comes to after graduation. So you graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree, a Coast Guard license, a deck or engineering license, depending on which one you choose. And you can go, unlike them, you can go into any of the branches and become an officer, which is really cool. That's why I also chose Kings Point, because I wasn't sure, like, if I wanted to go like Army or Marines or Navy. But you can choose whatever branch you want and go from there.
And they make a lot of money.
Yes.
And one of the things, we don't have anyone from the Air Force here today, unfortunately, but maybe next time we come, we have the Air Force today as well. But the Air Force has their own, of course, plethora of different options you can go towards once you graduate from there, and a ton of, they're more STEM, cyber, tech kind of oriented, but they also have the Space Force if you want to get into, space, I guess. And that was one we got a lot more excitement from a lot of folks, is people who are interested in going into Space Force and trying to get kind of in on the ground floor of this new branch of the military.
Which would be cool, because your generation is going to build that, build space
and define the culture there, and everything else would be people your age who will kind of build that. So you have the opportunity, which doesn't come on very often, to get into the ground floor or something, especially with the military. I mean, gosh, every single one of these branches goes back to the 1700s, but there is a lot of options with Air Force Academy as well, and also a plethora of experiences that they get to do. So I mean, it's really a lot of great options out there, no matter which way you want to go. Logan mentioned the pre-med. I believe all of the schools can get you, depending on your combination of coursework, can get you into med school. The Department of Defense also has what they call the Uniformed Services University School of Health Sciences, which is down in Bethesda, Maryland, right down the street from Ian. Not quite right down the street, but a little bit of a drive. And that's a full medical school that's open to all branches, and you go to med school, again, on the government's dime, and they pay you to go there, but this time you get paid as a full-fledged officer to go. If you are interested in becoming a medical doctor, you can continue all the way through with military medicine, and they'll get you all trained up. Your back end's a little bit longer, but it's worth it.
Andrew, could you also speak to access to law school? Because I understand that there's also an access point there as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to get into not only civilian law schools, but I think there's some military law schools as well. And we've actually had a lot of interest this year, specifically with people who want to get into law and become JAG officers, or doing kind of military law and get their feet wet that way, which can give you a great background, and they can set you up for a really strong future in law. Especially if you want to get into kind of government contracting law, which there's always money there if you want. You become a GS employee afterwards, but that is an option as well.
Yeah.
That people have been very, very interested in this past year.
For the Army side of JAG, it's definitely easier to go JAG out of ROTC, because one of the people who was in my ROTC program went JAG right out. From West Point, you can't go JAG straight out of the academy, but about 2-3 years in, I think it is, you can apply and switch your branch from whether you're artillery or something to JAG. And then also, as he was saying about the Space Force, at the Air Force Academy, they definitely have more of a percentage over it, but these past 5 years, the Academy's been running a Space Officer Basic Cadre course. So, like instead of air assault, or in addition to air assault and airborne, whatever military school you are slotted to go to, you can go to this one instead, or in addition. And you basically become a space officer as a cadet. And you can't go into that right after, but about 2 years you can switch branches to go space after you've already had that training.
Logan, would you mind talking a little bit about ROTC?
Of course, yeah, so ROTC, if you apply to the academies, you should also apply to ROTC. They will pay for your school. You apply for the ROTC scholarship. If you get it, you get paid to go to civilian school, and the school itself is also paid for. I'm saying you also get like an additional stipend, and you have every opportunity the academy would have to be an officer in the U.S. Army. It's a little bit different for the Navy because you guys can't go reserve, right? No, you can't go reserve, yeah. So Army ROTC, you can commission into the reserves, National Guard, or active duty, and again, those 17 branches that I was talking about. But the program is done at a civilian college. So I did ROTC at Bryant University, just in Smithfield, and then ROTC was the Providence College. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'd work out in the morning at Providence College, and then on Wednesday afternoon, we would like do tactical stuff in the woods of Bryant. And then we'd have one field training exercise a weekend, a semester. So that's the ROTC experience. It's kind of like the best of both worlds, and you don't have to go active duty right after.
And we have here at Pontiac, so we just recently had a young lady graduate 4 years ago here. She did Army ROTC at University of Rhode Island. So she was like a cadet was saying, she had gone to URI. She was a full-time URI student. She lived in the dorm. She socialized. She played women's rugby. She just lived the life of a college student. But just 1 week in a month, she would go train with her unit, which was the military police. So she just did that. And then 4 years later, upon earning her degree, she commissioned into the Army as a second lieutenant. So now she is in the officer corps in the Army, active duty. So she's working. The nice thing is she's 21 years old with a college degree, gainfully employed with no college debt. And I can't stress that enough because not enough people are talking about that. She has zero college debt. So everything she makes from here on in, she's bankrolling at 21, 22 years old. So just one thing to consider as you are preparing right now for life after high school, start putting yourselves in positions where you're going to be able to act on your success. Start challenging yourself. Now, I don't think the recommendation would be if you're struggling in Algebra 1, go sign up for a calc class. That's not what we're saying. If you struggle with Algebra 1, sign up for W4. Go work with your Algebra 1 teacher. Stay after school with your algebra teacher. Make sure that that Algebra 1 teacher knows you really, really well. And then through that, you'll be more successful in geometry and Algebra 2 to maybe where you can then take Algebra 2 on the side so that you can access pre-calculus and calculus by your senior year. Right? And then ultimately, you're probably going to have to take that calculus class again when you're at school. You take a high school physics class, you're still going to have to take college physics again. Right? Because, I mean, the majority of folks coming out of the academies are engineers, are they not?
Yeah, we all graduate with Bachelor's of Science, but most of our majors are all engineering, math-based majors.
Yeah.
Every West Point cadet has to go through an engineering sequence, and we're incredibly STEM-focused, as I've had to deal with.
Yeah.
But we definitely have that social science side as well. So the engineers will always complain to me about how much social science they have to take.
Right. So if I gave you all a magic wand, fast forward to life after the academy, right? So we're looking at flight school. Sophia's not sure yet. First year, that's fine. Second year at West Point, do you have an idea of what your life immediately after the academy is going to look like?
Hopefully the infantry.
Okay. And then after that, so is he understanding, Holly? So I go to a Us Service Academy, right, for free. But the obligation on the other end is that I would serve for
As an officer.
as an officer for how long?
It's a minimum of 5.
Okay.
Some of the academies, depending on what you branch off into, have changed. So I know a lot of the aviation, if you want to fly planes, they up the ante. I think a lot of those programs are 6 and 7 years now.
So flight school is going to take you roughly 3 years.
Okay.
Just because it's such a long training pipeline. Once I get my wings, my 5 years will start. So it becomes basically an 8-year commitment afterwards. I mean, I'm still getting paid as an officer that entire time, that first 3 years. Like you said, just pocketing all that money because I graduated with 0 debt. But again, that was my first choice, and that's what I want to do.
Right.
So I'm willing to do that extra 3 years. Or if you go something like submarines, it's just 5 years, easy.
Okay. And then life after that. So your option might be to simply remain in that branch of the military and make military a career for you. Be an announcement real quick here.
Please excuse this interruption. Jenna St. George, please report to the main office. Jenna St. George, report to the main office. Thank you.
Or you could choose to separate from the service, right, and then go on to a civilian job somewhere doing something. My experience with folks I've known in the service academies have gone on to work in the FBI, have gone on to, because they had such a niche job, like a very specialized job where there's very few of them, they cashed in, right? So my friend was an iceberg hunter for the Coast Guard. So then he started working for Us and a couple other large, companies, doing really well financially. And again, it's easy to secure some finances when you don't start with a big, giant amount of debt, right? So are your intentions to stay in the military, or do 10, do 20?
So personally, I'm not sure yet. So the nice thing about the Navy, I'm not sure if the Army or other branches are the same way. If I do 8 years, I get my full GI Bill, which means I could go to civilian grad school, get my master's and stuff afterwards, and they'll pay for the entire thing, along with paying me a stipend for housing while I do it, even if I'm not in the military anymore. So I know a lot of my friends and stuff are all planning on staying in that full 8 years. 8 years down the road, I'm not sure where I'm going to be in the world or what I'm going to be doing. I can see myself staying in for longer than 8 years flying, just because I've had a lot of fun doing it already, but yeah, I'm not sure yet.
I'm definitely going to do my 5 years in the infantry, and then probably transition into the Guard, and then be a state trooper. And one of my mentors right now on the state, there's a few people on the state police I know who went to Service Academies. One went to the Air Force Academy and flew attack helicopters in the Marine Corps, and the other one went to West Point, and now he is the Fusion Center intelligence detective. So he handles like all these TikTok threats right now. He's the one synthesizing all of that information to send out to school administrators and local police departments. And he went to West Point. He was the one investigating the Rhode Island connections with the Boston Marathon bombing. So that's what I want to do in the state police right afterwards, while in the Guard.
My dad served only 4 years in the Marines, and he said his biggest regret was not staying in longer. So my plan is to go active duty for at least 5 years. If I really don't like it, then I think I'll just go reserves and carry out the full 20 years. So that's my plan.
Great. So, questions? Y'all must have some questions, so go for it.
I want to be a psychologist for the military. Would that still be available? Is that part of a medical school degree?
So that would probably be going down the medical road. So one of my friends just is graduating. She's going med corps, so she'll go to med school right afterwards, all paid for.
Okay.
And then I'm assuming you can choose your medical path.
Okay.
I'm not exact. I can't speak too much on that because I'm not too knowledgeable about it.
Do you
but-
guys think it's a big enough subject, like psychology or psychiatric?
I know we place a lot of emphasis on that.
Okay.
So at West Point, you have to take 2 psychology courses.
Okay.
They're not really the type of psychology you want to do. They're more like leadership psychology.
Yeah.
But there's 2 ways you could go about it. So the psychology department's amazing. Behavioral science and leadership is what it's called at West Point, BSNL. They're an amazing department. And then you can graduate with a psychology degree and then either go medical service, and which wouldn't be a psychologist, but it would still be like hospital administration, and then you could like reclass to psychology. Or you go the med school route, but that you'd have to be a psychiatrist and not a psychologist.
Okay, thank you.
Other thoughts? Did you all talk about in high school the activities that you did when I had to run out?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
You know what, I think the one thing that we didn't touch on is, let me quickly take you through the full application process.
Yeah.
So as we mentioned, you're gonna apply to the academy, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too familiar with their side, but there's the application, the medical that they mentioned, the physical fitness, and then you do an interview with the stateside officer, right? As part of the.
Yeah, for the Naval Academy, you'll get, once you like put interest in the Naval Academy, some officer who's either still in or is retired will reach out to you and you'll do an interview with them as well.
For West Point, it's not a requirement. It's an option to kind of get your feet wet for the congressional interview, but it's not actually a requirement.
And these are people, I know the West Point, and I know their name, and I apologize because I don't know their names off the top of my head. Melissa is from West Point, and then her son went there.
It's Captain Wainwright in
Yes.
Rhode
We all work together, so we try as much as possible. When they have kids that are interested and they haven't touched in on the Codell side, they reach out to us, and the same thing. When we have kids that are interested and they haven't made that connection, we reach out to them and connect them. On the Codell side, so as I mentioned, you're gonna apply to both your senators and your congressmen. Each one of us has our own application. It's pretty much the same thing. You're gonna send in your grades, your transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation, and your SAT scores, and pretty much just a resume of your high school career. Once you finish filling out an application with us, we have an interview process. So the senator assembles a board. We have a smaller board. There's about 4 or 5 members on our board. It's all from different military backgrounds, branches, some are academies, some are not. But basically, each individual goes in front of this board and interviews with them. It's like 15 minutes. Basically, it's an interview to just kind of figure out who you are, find out how passionate you are, how serious you are about this. The senators and the congressmen only have so many names that they can send to each academy, so it's very competitive. So this process, this interview, is kind of a way to figure out, who's super serious, who's the most passionate, who really wants this. Because every single kid in that, I refer to them as cycles, they're all amazing. We just finished our interview process right now, and every single kid that comes through is amazing. If you do not go on to the academies, you were going on to do other amazing things with your life. So it is competitive, which is also why they say the sooner you get started, the better off you'll be. Whether it be looking into it now, seeing what types of classes you need to take. There's tons of information on these academies' websites. Take the time to go on them and just kind of do the deep dive and go around. There's medical stuff on there if you're curious or have any questions. All of their majors are on there. A lot of them have sections on their website specifically directed towards you to show you what types of classes you should be taking and what you should be doing during high school to prepare yourself for the academy. So if you are interested, I definitely encourage you to go onto their websites and check them out. There's also, I brought a couple and I can send more, the 5-pointed star. This little video will show you everything about each of the different academies. You can YouTube it, it's on YouTube too. But just to give you like a quick idea of what academics they offer, what athletics they offer, because that's the other thing at each of the academy. Why don't you do that? What sports are you guys involved in? Because when you're at the academy, you have to get involved in